Hi everyone, I'm deCaux and welcome to the first episode. This series is going to focus on creating food for people that are celiac and gluten intolerant and making it delicious. And having foods that we didn't think we could have anymore, which is great. And also, one other thing that I want to focus on is school lunches. Something that's must be hard for parents. It's hard enough when your kid can eat anything and they're not going to want to eat it. So we're going to try and show you delicious gluten-free recipes that they can put in their lunch boxes. Alright, today we're going to cook a delicious steak sandwich with a gluten-free bun. deCaux has started selling these beautiful gluten-free buns that are nice and soft and great for steak sandwiches. So we're going to give them a whirl. Also, we need standard spices like salt, pepper, and we need olive oil. And I've also got some beautiful seasonings from G-Spot, a great barbecue company that you should check out. Some mustard, some balsamic vinegar, Kewpie mayonnaise, tomatoes, onion, spinach leaf, cheese, and not to forget the steak. Alright, so first off, we start off with the onion. So just slicing it, top and tailing, taking the skin off. Something I learnt recently, and is a great bonus, is when you're doing stuff like this with onions, you don't have to chop it up into pieces. Just chop it down the middle and create rings, and it works perfect for these kind of recipes. So you just slice the onions, not too thick but not too thin. Just give you. So what we're going to do with these onions, we're going to cook it in the frying pan, and then we're going to add some balsamic vinegar just to give it a bit of tang and caramelize those onions. A little bit of olive oil, you don't want it to stick, and then you grab your onions, you break them up as you put them in, spread them out across the frying pan. Nice and even, trying to get as much of it as you can touching it. And you just want to add a bit of salt, because salt helps break down the onions and helps it cook quicker. Okay, while we're waiting for the onions to cook, we're going to move on getting the bread ready. So we cut the bread in half. Okay, so the bread is beautifully soft. It's amazing. I haven't really found any bread that hasn't been cakey like a lot of gluten-free bread is, so these rolls are perfect for what we're doing today. Chuck them in the toaster. We'll leave them there until we need them. We don't want to toast them too early because you don't want them to get cold. Alright, so moving on, we've got to season our meat. So we take our piece of steak. I'm using the Mediterranean lamb natural seasoning from the G-Spot company. They make great barbecue spices. Don't go easy on it because you want to be able to taste it once you slice the meat. Otherwise you won't have enough flavour. And then we add some salt and olive oil, and then we're going to rub the spice into the meat. That's important because we're going to use just a plain hot frying pan, grill pan, and not any oil in the pan, because then it sears the meat really well. It gives you those nice lines. All right, and we do the other side. Again, the same. A bit of salt, a bit of oil, and we rub it in. Alright, now don't forget the onions, we've got to check on the onions. Alright, so they're coming along nicely. Keep them stirring, you don't want to burn them. Alright, next up is we've got to prepare the toppings for the sandwich. So we want to take our tomato, we want to slice it. The reasonably thin slices, probably only need half a tomato for this recipe. So that's all good. And next we need some cheese. So you probably just need a slice and a half of cheese. Fits perfect on these rolls. Cool. Alright, perfect. Now we want to set this grill pan that we've got here. You have your grill pan, and we want to set this to as high a temperature as we can, because what we want to do is sear the outside of the steak. So the key with steak is you don't want to burn the outside, but you don't want to cook it too slowly that it completely cooks through the middle, because we want to cook this medium rare. Because that's my personal opinion, that's the best way to have steak. All right, so let's check on these onions. Keep them moving while we wait for that grill pan to get hot. Alright, so we want to cook these onions, keep an eye on them, we want to keep them still slightly crunchy, but we don't overcook them or burn them. Alright, so now we've got our meat, and we've got a grill pan. It's getting nice and hot. We'll just wait a little bit more longer, and then you want it to get that beautiful sear marks on the outside. Alright, let's see how we go. Beautiful. Alright, so we've got the steak on the grill pan. We want it to get these nice sear marks. We don't want to cook it too much because we don't want to overcook it. The key when you go to flip the steak is to make sure you move it onto as hot a part of the pan as it was on originally. So you don't want to flip it into the one spot because then it just doesn't get that searing that you had the first time around because it's not on the same amount of heat. So make sure when you pick it up and you flip it over, you flip it onto a different part of the pan that would be about the same heat as it was on the other side. Alright, so you want to turn down the onions a little bit before we put the balsamic in. Alright, so I've got some balsamic vinegar, and you just want to put a small amount, not too much because you don't want to overdo it, but you just want to be able to caramelize those onions and make them nice and tangy but nice and caramelized. Alright, you want to stir that around, put them in there. Alright, we're going to leave these on a low heat so then they can caramelize away. Make sure we turn our steak again and changing the angle to the grill marks because we want that nice crisscross across the meat. Alrighty, so now what we want to do is the steak's getting close. We want to start toasting our bun. So we put that down and we'll set it to however you like your buns toasted. I like mine a little bit more than like just the edge browning. Alright, so now meat's done. Sorry about a bit of smokiness. It doesn't help when you don't have an exhaust fan in your house. So we let that meat rest. We want to let it rest so when we cut it up, it's really nice, alright? Don't forget to turn the frying pan off. So now we take these buns, place them on the chopping board. Okay, so first off we want some spinach leaves as a base layer. And then we want to add some tomato. Now we want to slice up our steak. So bring that up. Now you always want to make sure you're cutting across the grain because if you cut along the grain, you're just going to get tough meat, even if it's the best piece of meat. So with rump, you really have to cut across the grain. Slicing up the steak into small strips. Next we want to add some of the meat onto the tomato and the spinach leaves. Cool. Alright, and next, some cheese. And not to forget our onions. Okay, and they go on top. Okay, now we want to put our mustard, so get a small spoon. And we want to spread that across the piece of bread that hasn't got anything on it yet. And then we want to add the mayo. Nice strip of mayo. Alrighty. And then a bit of salt and pepper. And then we just put the top bit on. Oh, this is looking gorgeous. Alright, then we cut it in half. And then we got it. A beautiful steak sandwich. So this is an easy, simple recipe, great for a Sunday or a Saturday afternoon when you've got a bit of time. You want to have something nice. It's also not a bad meal for a quick dinner if you need to. So every Tuesday we're going to have a new episode of this series up. Come back, we're going to teach you some delicious recipes, and next week we've got a great idea for a school lunch. Don't forget to subscribe, like us on Facebook, comment down below, and we'll see you next time.